We're joined now by Naftali Bennett. He's a member of Israel's inner security cabinet. He's the Minister of Economy. Minister, thanks very much for joining us.
Good evening.
As we speak, we're just getting these reports, awful reports, 4 Palestinian kids playing on a beach, all of a sudden killed, an Israeli gunboat shell landed there. You've heard of these reports, right?
I just heard about it this moment. I think it's terrible that Hamas is butchering its own children. I would never take my children and place them next to missile launchers. Here's what they're doing. Hamas is conducting massive self-genocide. They're taking women and children, placing them next to missile launchers, and shooting the missiles at Israel.
But these kids apparently were playing on a beach.
I'm telling you, I'll tell you where we find the missile launchers. We find them in hospitals, in schools, in homes. I myself am a former commando fighter. I saw it in Lebanon. You have a kitchen, you have a living room, and then you have the missile launcher room. What they're deliberately doing is seeking to kill as many Palestinians as possible in order to yell to the world to help us. And this is cynical and cowardly. You know, if you want to conduct terror against Israelis, which is unacceptable, send fighters to do it. Don't send your women and children.
But they're not sending them. These are little children. They're just playing on the beach. And clearly, the Israeli military was aiming for some sort of target, but in the process, there was what they used to call at the Pentagon collateral damage. These are human beings that were...
Israel never targets civilians deliberately, period. What Israel does is defends itself. And when people shoot at us, just as you would do with your family, if someone's shooting at your family, you'll shoot back. If that coward is hiding behind his own children, they might get hit. This whole thing can go away in one moment. Hamas needs to do one thing: stop shooting.
The criticism is coming in from this organization, Human Rights Watch. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Israel's rhetoric, it says, is all about precision attacks, but attacks with no military target and many civilian deaths can hardly be considered price.
Look, taking radical left-wing organizations doesn't impress me. No one wants to save more lives than us. We want to save all lives. We want to live side by side. I'll remind you, we handed the entire Gaza Strip over to the Palestinians 9 years ago, back to the 67 lines, vacated all the settlements. They said they would turn it into Singapore of the Middle East. Instead, they invested billions in missile launchers, in tunnels, in TNT, and everything to kill people. We want to live peacefully side by side. The moment they stop shooting and disarm themselves, we stop at that very moment.
You voted against the ceasefire in the inner security cabinet. The Prime Minister wanted it. He got his way. Israel accepted that ceasefire. It lasted for only about 6 hours because Hamas rejected it. Does this mean you're on the outs with him now? Because one of your colleagues was fired by the Prime Minister, the Deputy Defense Minister, for speaking ill of him in that decision to accept that ceasefire.
I fully back Prime Minister Netanyahu. If we have our differences, it's within the inner security cabinet. I thought that we have to demand not only a ceasefire, but also disarmament. My opinion was not accepted, and I stand behind Israel's official position: ceasefire.
Naftali Bennett speaking with me here in Jerusalem early.